Hi, I'm Suresh Venkat. You're watching Digital Disruptors. I'm in conversation with Dr. Susmita Mohanty, CEO of Earth to Orbit. So, Dr. Mohanty, it's been 30 years since we last went to the moon, right? And that was seen as a big technological achievement. Why hasn't humanity gone to the moon in 30 years?
So let's be a little more specific. The Americans last landed on the moon in 72, the Russians in 1976. The only nation in recent memory to have landed on the moon, and successfully so, is China. They landed on the near side in December of 2013 and again on the far side last year in January. So soft landing, soft precision landing on planetary surfaces is still a very big technological challenge. Which is why, so I think if you look at the first landings, it was more of a race. Now whoever goes back to the moon and successfully lands, it's not just going to be about being there, done that. It's going to be, we're going to stay and see how we can make it sustainable. So I think intermittent human presence coupled with robotic assistance. That's the kind of future lunar exploration we're looking at.
And what potential does the moon hold? Why should we have a permanent base on the moon? Why should humanity go there?
Just about any celestial body, Earth, Moon, Mars, asteroids, I think the human interest, it starts with exploration and eventually sort of meanders towards exploitation. It's all about resources, and the moon certainly has very many different kinds of resources. The one that is of importance to us humans is, or of interest, is helium-3. Nuclear fusion is yet not mastered. We don't have the technology, but the day we have it, helium-3 will become very precious.
What drives you to design for off-planet living? Don't we have enough problems on the planet that we already are on?
Yeah, well, we are actually, this is our home planet. So I think designing for living on planets which are not our home planet, to me there's very little difference between intercontinental travel and interplanetary travel. It's really about technology, distance, and to some extent perspective. And I do think we humans will extend our presence beyond our home planet, not just to ensure the survival and continuity of our species, but also it's human nature to explore. It's like, why do you climb Mount Everest? I think the answer is very similar.
Because it's there. Because it's there.
Yes, exactly.
And because the moon is there and because Mars is there.
It beckons us.
So realistically speaking, how long before we start sending teams of humanoid robots to Mars to start maybe terraforming the planet?
So I think the concept of humanoids, none of the space agencies have used it yet. Surprisingly so, if you ask me, because humanoids, the technology is fairly advanced now. ISRO will be the first space agency to be using humanoids on the 2 next precursor missions for our human missions in 2022 to low Earth orbit. And to answer your question, I think the first missions to Mars will probably not be humanoids. It will be a human landing. And getting to Mars is not as easy as getting to the moon. There's a certain launch window within which you have to operate, and you have to stay there for a certain number of days to get to the next launch window to come back. But having said that, I think to answer your question, I think in this coming decade, I do see humans landing on the moon. I think the Martian landing will probably happen in the next decade, given the technology readiness levels and the mission trajectories and so on. So I would say this decade, human landing on the moon, next decade, human landing on Mars, and in the long term, it will be a combination of biospheres and robospheres. So, and bioengineered humans. So robots working in tandem with human explorers, but also engineered humans in the long term, because on the moon, for example, it's going to be about, to be honest, about mining and construction kind of thing. And it's treacherous. The lunar dust is very difficult to live in. There's radiation because there's no atmosphere. So it's not a great idea to leave humans on the moon, for example, for too long. And coming back to terraforming, I think a lot of things that you're already seeing here on our home planet, like aquaponics, horticulture, organic ways of controlled agriculture, right? Controlled temperature, climate controlled agriculture is something we will take to other planets. People often think that when you design things for Mars or for Moon, the Earth has nothing to do with it. But it's really that technology is going to sort of seamlessly be used. But again, terraforming is complex business because not only do you have to think about the soil, you'll have to think about the atmosphere. So you will have to, you know, Trump has been talking about engineering the stratosphere. It's a dystopic idea, but
he's not the only one.
So
Nathan Mervold of Intellectual Ventures has also talked about geoengineering.
Yes, so Nathan was the CTO of Microsoft several days. So I think re-engineering the atmosphere is tricky business. It can go wrong as well. And I think we'll have to do it in small measure here before we try it there.
Before we try a massive level re-engineering another planet.
And I think we will have opportunities given anthropogenic climate change the way it's heading. We might have to learn to experiment with our own atmosphere. But probably not in a way that Trump is imagining, but.
All right. Let's bring a little Indian angle into this. Do you think it's worth our while as a nation to try and put an Indian on the moon, man or woman, on the moon?
I don't look at it that way. I look at it as human presence here on Earth being extended to other planetary bodies. So Indian or not, to me personally is not of great significance.
Okay.
But the demographic matters. So who will be the ones going to the moon or who will be the ones going to Mars?
No, I meant as a marker of Indian scientific prowess. We are trying to put probes on the moon, the Indian Space Agency.
Yes, we're trying to land a rover.
Right.
So I think yes, in terms of technological capability and accomplishment, it is a significant marker. Yes, both soft landing is a significant marker and human
man landing is also a significant marker. Okay, Susmita, final question for you. All these years, space exploration was the preserve of large, well-funded space agencies like an ISRO or a NASA or the Japanese Space Agency or the Russian Space Agency. But it's a field now that's opened up to startups.
Yes.
What are some of the startups doing in space?
In fact, if you ask me, in the 21st century, the space race will be between private companies, not so much between nations anymore.
Like Elon Musk sending a car into outer space for some bizarre reason?
Well, that is, to me, it's an obscene act of a billionaire throwing up personal effects.
And space garbage.
Yes, absolutely, because a shared resource, and I think that shouldn't be allowed. No, but I think, to answer your question, I think private companies, startups and otherwise, are working on sort of the next gen technologies already. We're looking at green propulsion, we're looking at 3D printing, we're looking at how do we declutter space because space debris is becoming a huge problem. Can we repair things in orbit? Can we refuel in orbit? What kind of human physiology and psychological aspects do we need to address if we have to send people for long durations, you know, to Moon, to Mars and beyond? How do we get back samples from asteroids? So I think the startups are already going beyond toy sats and looking at all of these things, which is to me very exciting.
All right, Dr. Susmita Mohanty, thank you for talking to us on Digital Disruptors.
Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more conversations around technology.